Now, with every crisis comes some good lessons, and this global financial crisis is no different. Modernising management skills and creating a paradigm shift in the way that our leaders operate is at the forefront of our next guest's mind. Kamal Sarma, Director of Rezilium. It's a leadership development firm aiming to bring a long-term approach to management. He does join me now in the studio. Kamal, you've described this as a window of opportunity, if anything, for leaders. What have they been doing fundamentally wrong? It seems to me you've created an identification about serving and not pleasing. Just walk me through that.
Sure. I guess one of the things that we've found, kind of some of the precipitators for this global financial crisis, is really that a lot of companies were trying to please their customers. So let's look at the subprime. A lot of people were giving debt to people that didn't really deserve it. They were pleasing their customers. That was number one. And they didn't really deserve that debt. Number two, a lot of CEOs were going to the market trying to please their shareholders about promising them returns that the system really couldn't support.
But aren't shareholders meant to own the company, and don't they therefore want to see the company grow? How do you do that if you don't, as a bank, lend, for instance?
Sure. Well, what they do is, what your shareholders want to do is they want you to create value over the long term. They don't necessarily want you to increase the share prices so the options go into the money and then the leaders actually execute those options and their bonuses and walk out of the company.
But if you're a day trader, you want a daily return, and increasingly mums and dads out there are hopping on their online accounts and doing just that. Are they thinking long term?
Well, no. I think one of the biggest issues is that what a lot of companies are looking at, and leaders are looking at the short term rather than the long term. What leadership is about is fundamentally the long term. Management can be about the short term, but leadership is fundamentally about the long term. If you look at all the greatest leaders, what they do is they have a vision, and a vision is not the next quarterly reporting season. It's about the long term.
Isn't that the problem, though? The greatest leaders occupy just a mere fraction of the onward march of those at the top. My point is really, how do you ensure longevity in that role? Because it seems as if performance criteria governs how long you sit in that chair, and it's not long.
I think you're right. I think there needs to be a fundamental paradigm shift. There needs to be a paradigm shift for business. Business's metaphors generally center around war or sports.
But isn't that very, very true towards the way the companies operate? They're out there to kill off the opposition.
Yes and no. I think the war paradigm is fundamentally wrong.
Why?
Business is not around killing your competition.
Isn't it?
No, it's not.
Why is it?
It's not. Well, you get sued for monopoly behavior, first of all. But
9 times out of 10 you win the case and you become the market leader.
True, but let's look at it. It's more like an ecology. It's more like an environment where you have to support all the organisms that in play. For example, if you're a CEO of a large company, you might go and work with your competitor. That would be unheard of if, for example, in the war paradigm, where you're a general of one country and then you go and switch up, I'll just go and be a general of another country. No, it's not like that. We've got to shift that paradigm, and if we can shift that paradigm, we'll shift the long-term, the short-term focus.
Okay, how do you shift it? A lot of ifs in that sentence, but not a lot of kind of follow through.
It's very challenging. It's going to be very challenging. But however, to really address the challenges that we as organizations, we as leaders are facing the globe and the economy.
Because you're talking aging population as one of those challenges, and also what, climate change.
But most definitely. Yeah. Those two responses, climate change and the aging population, require a much more longer approach. It is going to be very, very challenging for organizations to create value when those two things are coming at them if they're just looking at the next quarterly season.
Is this put into the too hard basket as the very language of challenges and the difficulty around that going to put off any fundamental reform?
Yes, fundamentally, because what's happening is that people are motivated by the short-term results, about getting the bonuses and making sure the option structures, options get in place. My belief is that we need to shift more to a certain degree, a bit of a private equity model, where sometimes you only get paid after 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, those kind of carries only work after 10 years. I think that's a model we need to shift to.
Your own business tripling in the last year, set to double this year. People are obviously listening to you, but do you get frustrated that you're called back potentially to the same organisations just to hear it all again, to agree with you, but then to do nothing?
No, I think we're seeing... The good thing about a crisis is that it gives a raison d'etre, it gives a reason for people to shift. And I think people are shifting now. And I think that's why the global financial crisis has been a real boon to a certain degree, because of the two challenges that are facing us: ageing population and climate change. This is just a storm in the teacup to what's really coming down the track.
But you have said that leadership is lacking. Fundamentally, at the top, you only get effectively 3 to 4 years of technical qualifications. You might do an MBA for 2 years. But is that enough to really know that dynamic as you've outlined it?
No. What people do is the major stuff-ups in organisations or in countries happen due to the lack of leadership. So this is, my belief, is not necessarily a global financial crisis, it's a global leadership crisis. A crisis, I would think, would be a tsunami or an earthquake. That is a crisis. This was to a certain degree foreseeable, it was manageable.
How much of it is about having courage to say no?
Most of it. One of the key attributes of leadership is authenticity and having the courage to say no. What happens is that we don't see too many authentic leaders. They say dogs can smell fear. Well, we can smell hypocrisy. And we smell it a lot. We smell it in our political leaders and our business leaders. And that's why...
So it's got to be applied to both. You've got to have the personal vision as much as the corporate one.
Most definitely. Right. What you see is that organisations wax lyrical about their company visions, but there's no resonance with a person's personal vision. You never hear about a person's vision. But when you see really amazing leaders that have made a paradigm shift, such as Gandhi, Mother Teresa, or Nelson Mandela, there is a congruency between their personal vision and the vision for the country. For example, if you look at South Africa, South Africa could have easily gone down the road of Zimbabwe. Mugabe, yeah. So that's how it was.
So it took really that coalescing of the personal and the leadership vision to bring it all together. Kamal,
that's great.
We will have to leave it. Your book, Mental Resilience, of course, Power of Clarity, that is it. Fleshes out that in some more detail, of course. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kamal Sarma from Rezilium. We must move on.